Hello friends! The 2.0 TDI is equipped with a common rail injection system and a timing belt drive with a recommended drain interval of 90,000 kilometers. The turbo diesel is much more reliable than the old 2.0 TDI with unit injectors, but it is not without its drawbacks. Its main problem is the oil pump drive. The disease concerns versions of the motor with a balance shaft module located at the bottom of the crankcase. There are two balancing shafts. One of them is driven by the crankshaft and rotates the second shaft through a gear train. It also drives the oil pump through a thin hex shaft. Until October of 2009, a short hexagon, 77 millimeters long, was used. With its wear, the adhesion between the pump rotor and the shaft deteriorated. As a result, the shaft slipped and the pressure in the lubrication system gradually decreased. The turbocharger was the first to fail, and then the blockhead. In the long term, the crank mechanism also wore out. In this case, you do not have to rely on the indicator light. It lights up only if the pressure dropped at speeds above 1500. The short shaft of the oil pump is turbodiesel marked CAHA, CAHB, CAGA, and CAGB. Since October of 2009, the length of the hexagonal shaft has increased to 100 millimeters, and its surface has become more durable. Since then, almost nothing has been heard about problems with the shaft. The most reliable diesel engines have been available since September of 2011. Then a number of improvements were made. These motors were designated CJAC and CMGA. When buying a turbodiesel, you should check the condition of the fuel system. This can be done, for example, by unscrewing the fuel rail pressure sensor. If chips are found, the injection pump will have to be changed. Another drawback of the 2.0 TDI is the EGR valve. Until 2010, the turbodiesel met Euro 4 emission standards and had a so-called small EGR valve. The new motor received a large EGR valve. In a small valve, the intake flap clogs over time, and in a large valve, the flap control mechanism may break. However, the 2.0 TDI CR overcomes the milestone of 300,000 kilometers without any problems, subject to regular maintenance and refueling with high-quality fuel. Since 2013, completely new four-cylinder diesel engines 2.0 TDI of the EA288 series have gone. The fundamental difference is the movement of the balancing shafts into the block and a different gas distribution system. The new engines developed 150 or 177 horsepower. A 3-liter turbodiesel can cause serious trouble. We are talking about the timing chain and tensioner located on the side of the gearbox. A typical symptom is noisy operation for a few seconds after starting. Fortunately, this applies first of all to the older generation of the engine, which was inherited by KU5 in the first year of production. In later cars, an upgraded turbodiesel was installed with fewer chains. It has a higher strength and is able to cover over 400 to 500,000 kilometers. A diesel V6 is characterized by a clogged EGR valve or its radiator. In addition, deposits form on the swirl flaps of the intake manifold, which is why they wedge. Electronics recognizes the default and reduces engine power. Sometimes there are cases of piston burnout, and with high mileage, malfunctions in the injection system may occur, or problems with the DPF filter will appear. However, the latter applies to all diesel units without exception. Gasoline engines also raised certain questions. The most durable of these is the naturally aspirated 3.2-liter V6. True, it is very greedy. All gasoline units have direct fuel injection, which in the long run is fraught with the deposition of excessive carbon deposits on the valves. Often there are cases of increased consumption of engine oil for waste, especially in 2.0 TFSI, released before 2013. In order to reduce internal friction, the manufacturer used two thin oil scraper rings, which lie after 100 to 150,000 kilometers. Decoking rings does not help everyone. In addition, the timing chain is stretched prematurely. Later, VAG upgraded the engine, the 2.0 TFSI Generation 3. In 2013, the piston design was modified. Together with the oil burner, the problem of chain stretching was also defeated. From time to time, the pump or thermostat fails. Sometimes the expansion tank of the cooling system leaks. Ignition coils will last over 100 to 150,000 kilometers. The top 3.0 TFSI after 100,000 kilometers is threatened by the failure of a mechanically driven compressor. Its repair is problematic. It is worth mentioning lambda probes. The all-wheel drive system is considered the best in the class and does not cause any problems. The solution is very reliable, with an honest self-locking differential. In the long run, the classic automatic Tiptronic has proven itself best. The box is perfectly combined with 6-cylinder units, gasoline, and diesel. Yes, it thinks a little longer when switching, but the large torque of the V6 more than compensates for this shortcoming. As for the S-Tronic, a dual-clutch robotic gearbox, DSG, there are more complaints about strong shocks or slow reactions. In most cases, deficiencies can be fixed with a software update. However, after 100 to 150,000 kilometers, it is practically impossible to avoid problems with mechatronics and clutch. In mechatronics, first of all, you have to change faulty boards. It is worth noting that after restyling, the robot has become less troublesome and more resilient. The suspension, together with the base 17-inch wheels, ensures a good ride. More expensive versions had shock absorbers with the ability to adjust the damping force. At first glance, the front suspension looks the same as in the Audi A4, but here it is adapted to a different geometry, in particular to a wider track. 1,617 millimeters instead of 1,564. The subframe is also different, it is wider. The rear multi-link design has also been changed. The increased track required a different steering. The pistons of the hydraulic mechanism have become larger. The original Q5 used hydraulic power steering and versions over 190 horsepower, Servotronic electric booster. In 2011, some modifications received a completely new electromechanical amplifier identical to that used in the A4 and A5. After 60 to 120,000 kilometers, it is sometimes necessary to update the lower cross of the steering shaft. There is a creak or the effect of biting the steering wheel. As a rule, ball and steering rods wear out quickly in heavy SUVs. However, according to the German TÜV, the percentage of identified faults in the Audi Q5 suspension parts is very low. The resource of the front suspension is somewhat less than the rear. In addition, brake pads and discs wear out relatively quickly. Among other things, the power steering sometimes causes trouble. In practice, front and rear shock absorbers reach 100 to 150,000 kilometers. Ball bearings and silent blocks of the front suspension serve a little less, but the rubber metal parts of the rear multi-link are almost eternal. The picture is similar with wheel bearings. The front ones have to be updated after 80,000 to 120,000 kilometers, and the rear ones practically do not bother. The body is very well protected against corrosion. However, on aged specimens, paint peeling is observed at the edge of the wheel arches and swelling of the paint near the door handles. The panoramic roof eventually ceases to close tightly, begins to rattle, leak, and unnerve with wind noise. Often, after 6 to 10 years of operation, the headlights begin to fog up. In vehicles equipped with an active light system, unpleasant sounds, most often a creak, may appear when turning the steering wheel. It is worth noting the far from eternal point LEDs. There are many machines on the market in which they no longer work. The owners do nothing, as replacement is expensive. Luckily, you can find specialized companies dedicated to refurbishing LED lights. Audi Q5 owners also report problems with the TMPS tire pressure monitoring system. Sometimes the Bose audio system is weird. It is treated with a software update. The rear view camera fails from time to time. With age, door locks fail due to a malfunction of the control electric motor or micro switch. In addition, the touch sensors of the keyless entry system fail. After 150 to 200,000 kilometers, the stove motor may make noise or fail. Electronics problems are most often characteristic of instances restored after serious accidents. The Audi Q5 was recalled 3 times during production. The first time, the recall affected cars manufactured from December 2008 to May 2009, due to an increased risk of injury in an accident as a result of the destruction of the fixing latches of the front pillar upholstery. Audis that have been revised received an entry in the service book 70D4. The second action affected Audi with a 2.0 TFSI engine assembled from March to May 2009, due to a leak in the coolant line, an entry in the 21C5 book. The third recall concerned Q5s with a panoramic roof built from June to December of 2011. Due to the violation of production technology, the destruction of panorama glass in frost is possible. The service was replacing the old glass roof with an entry in the book 60B.